Hi, everyone. It's really nice to meet you. My name is Camille. I am going to talk to you a little bit about my journey through STEM, and I am really excited to be here, so thank you for having me. How many of you would like to one day maybe test your own invention at NASA? Is that something maybe that would be cool? Awesome. All right. How many of you, one of my heroes is former President Obama. Would one of you maybe like to meet him one day? That would be really cool. Okay. And then also, how many of you want to maybe be able to do outreach and be able to tell people your story? Is that something that you're interested in? Maybe? Okay, cool. So I'm going to tell you how I learned how to do all those things in my brief years on this planet, so I'm 23, and how I was able to do that through STEM, allow STEM to help me do more than just engineering, just science, but do all kinds of things and lead me on a path. So a little bit more about who I am. Oh, we've lost a slide, but so I'm, let me see if I go back. No? Oh, yeah, there he goes. So I'm a student at Boise State in Boise, Idaho. Do any of you guys know Boise State University or Idaho? Okay, cool. That's awesome. Thank you. I'm a mechanical engineering student, but I like to do a lot more than that. I've done student leadership. I've done work in science with NASA and space research. And then I'm also a mechanical engineering intern at X right now, which is formerly known as Google X. And so I get to make robots there, and I'm really excited about that work. So my journey began in middle school, similar to you. When I was 12, I decided that I wanted to be an astronaut, and maybe some of you also want to be astronauts. Does anybody want to be an astronaut? Cool, perfect, that was me. And to be an astronaut, I decided that I was going to be an engineer, and that was my path. So that's what started me to be interested in engineering, and then I went on from there to explore and learn a lot more. So in high school, I did the Idaho Science and Aerospace Scholars Program, and it was a really cool program with NASA, and actually, this is kind of funny, in high school, they flew all of us Idaho kids out to go across the street to NASA Ames. So it's kind of full circle for me to be here today, because I came as a high school student to NASA Ames to check out what was out here, and now I'm here speaking to you. So it's kind of really cool that I get to come full circle. So in this program, we learned a lot about space science, space research, and learned about the math that goes behind that and the science that goes behind that. And that was really important for me because I thought I hated science, I thought I hated math. But it turned out that I needed an application that I really liked, and for me that was space. And so that led me on this journey of being confident about going to engineering and following my passions. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, I mentioned at the beginning how it was more than just engineering and science that got me on my path. I'm going to talk to you about some of the other interests that kind of evolved into where I am here today, how I'm an intern at X, and all of that. So my first year at college was very cool, very awesome. I was excited. I was Boise State, and I was really just interested in space and engineering. That was pretty much it. I was like, oh yeah, space engineering, that is what I want to do. I got to meet former astronaut Barbara Morgan, and she was a really incredible mentor. Do any of you remember the Columbia story when that crashed and the tragedy at NASA? Barbara Morgan knew Krista, who was on that flight, and she was her backup. And so eventually Barbara went to space herself in her place. And so she has an awesome story of encouragement, and she was a really cool mentor for me. And so I really, I encourage you in life, find those mentors that really inspire you and keep you and push you to do those things. What Barbara did for me is she helped me be in a program called the Space Broncos. And the Space Broncos was a really cool program, again, my first year, first semester, and I got to talk to astronauts in space. So I'm gonna show you a video clip of what it was like talking to astronauts in space.
Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Station is ready.
Boise State University, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Boise State University. How do you hear me?
Boise State, we have you loud and clear.
Stephen, Rick, good to see you. Welcome to Boise State University. We'd like to get the show rolling right away. So first Space Broncos, step on up.
Hi, Camille Eddy, freshman, mechanical engineering. Steve, What does the conservation of angular momentum look like in microgravity? Can you give us a demonstration, please?
I will try to give you a demonstration. There's two versions.
All right, so Steve's doing your standard figure skater. When your hands are in, he spins faster. When his hands are out, he'll slow down a little bit. Now he's doing the
Hopefully that worked for you. I found it fun.
So the thing about that is astronauts are really cool. They're educational and fun to be around. That was Steve Swanson. And like Barbara Morgan, he would eventually come to my school, work at my school, be a mentor, and be someone that I could go talk to and rely on for cool opportunities like that one. So it was really cool to talk to him, meet him basically in space. And then he came back to school and I got to meet him in person. And this is just a testament of some of the cool things that you can do at college if you put your mind to it and be open to those cool opportunities. So my second year, I kind of realized that there was a lot more to being at school, to being in engineering. And so in Bold, I've highlighted some of the things that I kind of took on, which was speaking, doing more like speaking in front of groups, sort of like these, and then also leading student organizations. I thought that my time in Space Funks was really great. It was really positive. So what would it be like to actually lead an organization like that on my own? So the project that I would take on was called Microgravity University. It's another NASA program, really excited about that. So I kept the space and engineering in there. And our job was to build a tool for NASA. We were to build a space tool for NASA that would collect rocks off an asteroid for a human mission to an asteroid. It's a big task, and they gave it to us as students. We were supposed to put together a proposal, do all kinds of things. And I'm going to show you another video clip of what it was like going to NASA and testing our own invention at NASA like a NASA engineer.
TC diver comm check.
This is Diver. Read you loud and clear, TC. How do you read me?
Read you loud and clear, Diver. Are you moving to the first testing site now?
Yes, sir. What would you like to see first?
First, could you hold the tool with your right hand by the handle?
Sure. Okay.
Position yourself over a desired sample with that device vertical, so it's pointed down towards the sample.
Okay. Which sample would you like to see first?
First, move to the black box, please.
Okay.
Now with your left hand, please rotate the first box into the correct position.
First box aligned, ready to go.
You selected a desired sample.
Yes, sir.
With your right index finger, depress the safety trigger. Squeeze the actuator to open up the sample collection box.
Copy that.
Now use the sample collection box to scoop up a sample and release the actuator to close it.
Copy. Scooping. Releasing. Alright, I got some samples, some hanging out.
With your right hand, squeeze the actuator and shake the box slightly to try to seat some of that sample.
So that was really fun. The voice you heard over there was actually another student. So what I really liked about maybe it was like Apollo 13, I like the procedure, like when you're like, NASA procedure, like Houston, this is the spacecraft, we got a problem, that kind of thing. And so here we actually got to be a part of the procedure. We didn't just stand by and watch them test our tool for us. We were the ones designing the test, talking to the divers in the water. This was at NASA Johnson Space Center in the Neutral Buoyancy Lab. So we actually got to design the tool, take it to NASA, test the tool ourselves with the help of the divers. And they really gave us basically free rein, like we were NASA engineers. And we were able to do this. This was my second year of school, and with a variety of other students from their different years of school. So that was really exciting for me. I was the team lead for this group, so I not only got to participate in the engineering part of it, I got to use some of my soft skills, like team leadership, making sure our team was in the right place, making sure we had the right documents in place. It really helped me do some organizational work as well. So it wasn't just engineering. It was a lot of other things that I got to practice with and have a really great team to do that with that had my back, which was really cool. So let's go through the third year of school. In the third year, I expanded some of my interest again. This time, I decided that I really did have an interest in robotics, so I wanted to pursue that a little bit further. Expanded my coding knowledge, started learning how to work with Python, worked more with Arduinos and Raspberry Pis, which I see you are working with today. And then also, I made a goal to work at a tech company. And I got my first internship at HP, which is also nearby in Palo Alto. And it was a really great experience because it was robotics. Now, unlike some of my peers maybe at the time, I had never done anything with robotics before in my life. So I had a bit of a insecurity about working in robotics when everybody else had been in robotics and say we're 5th grade or whatever. At least that's what I thought. But when I arrived there, I realized that the knowledge that I had, the vision that I had was unique, and that I could use that unique vision, do a little bit of learning, you know, a big up curve of learning, but be able to still bring something to the team that was valued and that the team and my bosses really liked and kept me on for. So I got to do robotics at HP, which was my dream. And it was a really great experience because the CTO of HP, Shane Wall, came and saw my robotics hand project. So I'm going to show you the project that I put together within 3 months during the summer. So over here, Shane Wall is the CTO of HP, and he took this video of my robotic hand. And what the hand does is it actually takes in information from a camera. You could see the other hand in the background on the computer. And from the camera, it decides how far it should move. So basically, it's a robotic hand that's controlled visually with computer vision and 3D vision. And what was really great about this was it was my idea. And using that idea with another help of an intern who did the programming behind it, I was able to work on the mechanics of it. I was actually able to design and build it. And that's basically my design you see there, that Shane Wall then eventually tweeted on Twitter. So it was a really cool experiment of making a goal, setting out ways to try to figure out that goal, and then completing it and having some fantastic results. And those are some of my other teammates, or intern mates, I guess, on the left. Excuse me. Okay, so my 4th year, I was like, this is really great. I've done all these cool things. I think what I really want to do is do some more traveling, maybe document some of my experiences, and see where that gets me. I also start learning more. Besides just robotics, I started learning about artificial intelligence and machine learning in another internship with HP. And then I also wanted to try to understand some of the issues that were going on at my school outside of engineering, outside of my college, but also with the environment at school and diversity and inclusion. So I also started taking on those things. And as you can see, I got to travel to quite a few places in the meantime. So in my first semester, I actually got to have my first speech in San Francisco on a big stage talking about making my own invention for space for NASA. And I was able to share that with a big audience. And one of the things I want to encourage you to do is be strong and confident in your past achievements. Maybe you don't think other people would be interested in them, but they are. Like I'm here today talking to you about what I've done. When you do that, that usually, and it did for me, paves the way for future opportunities. So have a story, be ready to tell your story, and then you can see what happens next. And that was my goal for my 4th year, is to travel, to do more speaking, to blog, and let people know what I had done. And then so I also got to go to MIT to visit another school, which is really cool because MIT is the really awesome school that everybody wants to go to. And I got to go visit and see what graduate school might be like. I also went to NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory, again, another NASA site, and I got to see Juno go to Jupiter. And that was the spacecraft that NASA had built. And they were allowing people to come in and kind of document on social media. So as you can kind of see from my story, there is about 3 different ways I interact, actually 4. So with ISAS, Idaho Science and Aerospace Scholars, with Microgravity University, with Space Broncos, and with this, 4 different unique ways I participated and worked with NASA, one of my passions in space, right? And then the last one, how many have seen Hidden Figures? Have any of you seen? Oh, That's awesome. Cool. So if you read the book, you know that there wasn't just 3 hidden figures like there was from the movie. There was a 4th hidden figure named Dr. Christine Darden. And over here in the bottom right, here I am in a panel with Dr. Jedediah Eisler and a couple other mathematicians and astrophysicists talking with Dr. Christine Darden on the screen on Skype. And so that was really cool. I did that in Chicago, and it was a really cool opportunity to kind of meet one of those hidden figures and talk to them and get her perspective in real time. Again, that came by really making sure I put myself out there and doing more than just engineering and science, but trying to take the whole field. So I have 3 tips for you before I go to the next section. And my 3 tips are to always be ready so you don't have to get ready. That's something I heard a long time ago. And if you're ready to tell your story, then you don't have to get ready to tell your story. If you're ready to give someone your resume, then you don't have to get ready to give someone your resume. I think that's really important. Another rule that I live by is to say yes to every new opportunity. I don't say no just because I haven't tried it or because I don't know what will happen. I always try to go around those corners, even if it's it's not for sure what will happen. I try to go around those corners and see what will happen, and if I can put my own unique spin on it. And then third, don't do anything twice. I know that might sound a little weird, but like when the opportunity came for me to do microgravity university again a second time, I was like, well, actually, I want to do something else. And that led to my 3rd year opportunity. And then the 3rd year opportunity led to my 4th year opportunity. So I got to do a lot of different things. And I think that's really important, especially as students, because you have the opportunity to explore a lot of things without someone expecting you to do or to stay with one specific company. So I encourage you when it's time to do internships, definitely go around and try to find out other places you can intern, other experiences you can take, and do that even now in middle school and high school. So, let me explain some of these pictures real quick. So at the top left, I got to go to DC and talk about artificial intelligence, and that was really cool to be in Washington, DC. At the lower left, this is a team that I got to work with at school. We were tackling some of the diversity issues at school, and you can see there's a lot of us here, and it was really great to be with them and work with them through the semester. And at the bottom right, I got to visit the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Has anybody been there yet? Yeah, okay, cool. It is so, so cool. I totally encourage you to go there. It's really fun, and it's a really great place to be. So, sorry. I want to talk a little bit more about getting involved with robots. I know you probably have. You've been learning about computing here. And I also wanted to talk to you maybe about getting involved with robots from my perspective. I know maybe it doesn't seem like I focus on robots in my talk just now, but that has been a really strong passion of mine since about my 2nd year. So here's some tips I have if you want to get involved with robots. From any skill level, whether you've done it before, whether you've done some, it's really important to get engaged with the community. So I'm going to have Parker in a minute come up and talk about FIRST robotics. But join a FIRST robotics chapter. Does anybody here belong to FIRST or knows about FIRST? Oh, that's going to be really great when Parker comes up. You feel free to ask him so many questions, as many questions as you can, because it's a really great opportunity for you to get in there, especially as a high school student, to learn about robots and actually start using and working with robots. They have competitions, it's really cool, but I'll let Parker get into that. There are also programs at your school, maybe, or at your library to get involved with robots. I really encourage you, even if maybe it seems like it's for a different crowd, maybe it's for like engineers, people who are really like gung-ho on science and engineering, go ahead and take a peek in. Maybe you have a different focus. Maybe you want to be a business major later or do something else, but just exploring and seeing what they're out there for you, that really helped me in the past, and I'm sure it will help you. The third, you can buy a low-cost Arduino or Raspberry Pi kit to start learning how to work with those on your own. I know that really helped me as well, just to be able to do some stuff on my own and figure out what I was going to do with it. And then you can also, with your parents' permission, make your own website or blog. That's a really cost-effective way to start learning how to code. How do you talk to a computer? But you're learning that here today, so I don't think you have any problem with that. But that's another way that I started learning in middle school, especially, about how to do coding and how to work on that type of stuff. And then, It's lowercase. But number 5 is find an internship. There are internships open to high school students. There are internships open to high school graduates. There are internships open to freshmen in college. Don't let your age be something that you limit yourself with. There are definitely opportunities out there, and I encourage you to go find them, seek them out, really push them. And remember, you be ready so you don't have to get ready. And put those resumes out there, tell people that you're ready to go. And I think that will really help you out if you want to get involved with robots. So I'm going to have Parker come up and talk a little bit about FIRST Robotics. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name's Parker. I work with Camille at X. We build robots, and it is really awesome.
Yeah.
So Camille has a fantastic story, and mine's a bit different in that I have been doing robots for quite a while. FIRST Robotics is a school-oriented robotics competition organization. They have competitions starting with first LEGO League Junior in elementary school and even kindergarten, and then run through a bunch of different programs up through high school with the FIRST Robotics competition. I know I saw a few hands for people that are currently on a FIRST team. Actually, don't know if you'd be in an FLL team or an FTC team in middle school or high school. There's a bunch of different programs that kind of work through the different levels of school. And I can really give credit to where I work now at X, at this super awesome environment with super awesome people, to being a part of FIRST. Most notably in high school, I helped start a FIRST Robotics team at my school. They did not have one. I then captained that team for 2 years. I then come back and mentor that team. And through all of this, getting wrapped up with this program for now almost 7 or 8 years, I also blog with FIRST about outreach and getting kids involved. And I also, as of now, speak about FIRST too. So I have some tips for getting involved with this program, or at least first I'm going to pitch it by saying that you are going to learn a lot with this program. You're going to have a lot of fun. And most importantly, even if you aren't interested in a STEM field, that of course can change, but regardless of what you're interested in, you'll have fun and you'll learn a lot from this program. In FIRST Robotics competition at the high school level, you have a team of upwards of 40 people. And those people are not just engineers and programmers making a robot on a field. There are also people responsible for fundraising. Our team's budget every year can be between $15,000 and $50,000, which is a big deal. And there are people responsible, high school students responsible for managing all those funds, for getting sponsors, for writing grants. There are people who are just involved with management, business, there's branding, there's marketing, there's this whole ecosystem around these teams that start even as early as first LEGO League that you can get involved with if you are not interested in just the hard science. So that is something that a lot of people will be, if they're not a scientist or a programmer, they generally not, for most cases, generally won't be interested in those teams. And I'm telling you now, there's a lot of fun to be had here. So in this area, I have to say, in the Silicon Valley area, most schools will have a FIRST Robotics team at this point. I remember Burlingame High School was one of the last schools just in this area to not have a FIRST team at all. And so if you are interested in doing this, you should go to someone at your school and just start asking if that school has a FIRST team. Most likely the answer will be yes, and there's generally a captain or a coach or someone on that team that you can get involved with. And it's very easy to get involved with the team. Generally, everyone I've met in this program is always really friendly and really nice and will help you get started out. If there isn't a team at your school, it's something that's a bit more of an undertaking to start one, but it's something that with parental support and school support should get done because really it's fun. Is there anything I can speak to for the pictures here? Sure. The picture on the left, that's the FIRST Robotics competition. FRC is the top level competition, and it's for high school students. And those are 120-pound robots that play on a 25 by 50 foot playing field, 6 of them at a time. So a really big field, almost as big as this room. And you drive them around and you'll shoot big yoga balls into hoops in the sky, or throw frisbees, or climb metal trusses all the way up to the ceiling, or stuff like that. And it's challenging, and it is really fun. The other two pictures are also from FRC, but that's just my pitch for the program. I'd really encourage you to get involved because it's a blast.
What kind of robots are they? Like, so are they all like these, or do they change?
No, it's hard to really speak to this without visual examples. But at the elementary school level, the robots are built with Legos and controlled with Legos NXT control environment, and you drag and drop programming and stuff like that. For First Tech Challenge, which is middle and high school oriented, the robots are just bigger than a foot cube, and they compete on a bit of a smaller thing, and they're built with kits as well. Generally, they're metal kind of erector set style kits. And those are also, in middle school, you're starting to actually write code and program this stuff like what you're doing here. And it can get still pretty advanced. And there's a lot of room to grow in these programs. And
what kind of code?
It's a good question.
Oh, okay.
I generally did not write a lot of code on these teams, but in FTC, I believe it's a lot of, I think they write in a C environment using C code. I think we're starting to do Python too. And then First Robotics, you start to learn Java is what's mainly running there. So there's a lot of different languages involved.
Cool.
Is there anything else I should cover?
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, Parker. Stay up with me. Thank you for having me. So are we doing questions?
Yeah, so I think that probably there's a lot of great questions in the audience. If you have a question, please raise your hand and we'll bring a microphone to you.
What kind of challenges do you have for the robots?
Oh, for First? So since you're mostly in middle school, I'm going to talk about FTC, which is the program that you would be most likely joining at this point. You are playing on a tabletop, or a floor field, but it's about 8 feet square. And last year's competition involved wiffle balls, a lot of wiffle balls. And there were these hoops in the center of this field. And you would roll up or scoop up or figure out how to get these wiffle balls that are just dumped on the field into your robot and then actually just shoot them. Some teams used catapults. Some teams used spinning wheels that would just throw the balls up. And then at the end of the round, there's a second, much bigger ball. I think it was a yoga ball that the robots would have to pick up. And keep in mind that these balls are bigger than the robots themselves. And they would have to somehow find a way of scoop it up and actually lift it about 4 feet into the air and put it on top of the hoops to just kind of close them off at the end. That was the game that they played last year. And the first challenge changes every year across all 4 competitions. Every year it's different, and every year you have to build a new robot. But it will generally always include scooping up something, throwing it into a hoop or a goal, and then also playing with some other bigger element in some way.
When I'm dealing with robots, I usually I'm designing them. So whenever you design a robot from scratch, you gotta take care for things that you wouldn't normally think of. Like, for example, when I was designing my robot hand, well, if you think about it, how does your robot hand grip things? Sometimes it flexes, sometimes it goes like that, but rarely does it just straight go up and down. And so I had to think about how was I gonna design something like that into a rigid material? And it came into joints, and also being aware of where it was going to pinch somebody. Like, for example, we have skin, so we can't really pinch really hard like a plastic piece would pinch, but we do have touch and finger sensing where we can like say, oh, I'm gripping this hard, but a robot doesn't know that. So I had to be aware of all those things that you had to design into a mechanical object versus something that we just take for granted with our own hands.
We have one over here.
Cool.
How many times have you guys worked together?
I think I've been there for 3 weeks, times 5, so 15 days.
Yeah.
All day.
Yeah, Camille, we work on the same team and work pretty closely on some of the same stuff. But she did also just start 3 weeks ago here at X, so we haven't had a lot of opportunity to.
But we work together a lot, and so teamwork's really important.
We have a question over here.
Yay.
So this question is for Camille. Throughout the process
through high school and later you were in all these organizations working with NASA. Was there ever like interview processes? Was it just like, I want to work with NASA and boom, you were in? Or like you actually had to prepare and fight for your case there?
Yeah. So one of the things about most of the programs I talk to you about is that they're really low barrier. It's not a big, strict interview process. But what I did do was I met Barbara Morgan. I didn't meet her in my first year, like I might have alluded to in my talk. I actually met her when I was in high school. I met her my freshman year in high school and was like talking to her and saying, hey, I want to be an astronaut and I want to work for NASA. And she's like, okay. And then every year after that, every summer camp, every place she was, I'd go up there and say, hey, I'm Camille, remember me? I want to work for NASA, I want to be an astronaut. So by the time that, 4 years of that, by the time I got to my first year of college, she knew who I was. And I kid you not, 3 weeks into school, she was emailing me about Space Broncos. So while I didn't have a strict interviewing process, I did do networking as a high school student, as a middle school student. They knew who I was. They knew I was coming to Boise State. And so by the time I got there, they had these opportunities. They're like, who should we give these to? We should probably give it to that kid that was bothering us all those other years. So I would definitely network.
Hi, Camille and Scott. Thanks for sharing your story, Camille. I have a quick question, please. Out of all these great projects that you worked on, what was your favorite and why?
I think I'll say that Microgravity University was definitely my favorite. That was my second year. And one of the reasons why it was my favorite is, and not to sound cliche, but it was because it was so hard and we did it. That was a program that we actually slept at school sometimes. We were over 18, so we didn't have to get our parents' permission. But we worked really, really hard on that project, and sometimes it seemed like it wouldn't work. But Barbara Morgan would come in, and she would sit with us all night. I mean, this is a woman that's like technically not even an NASA anymore, and she's working here on like giving us her free time and staying with us through the night to work on our project with us to make sure we got it right. We ended up producing a proposal for NASA. And because Barbara Morgan worked with it, it was like we produced a real proposal for NASA. So I really like being able to like say I did something really hard. We almost like didn't make it. We were building up to the time we got on the plane to go to NASA Johnson Space Center. We were still putting stuff together. We were in the hotel room like fixing our tool and stuff like that. So we like had some really near misses, and we still succeeded. Got the tool into that pool with the divers. Woke up every morning bright and early to work with the NASA people on site. So that was my favorite because it was so hard, and we did it, and we executed it really well.
Do we have any other questions from anyone in the audience? Volunteers?
These are great
instructors.
Oh. Yes.
So can you tell us about maybe a time that something didn't go as well in your plan, maybe as career goes or just as a project, and how you overcame that situation?
Sure. Oh, yeah, let me tell you a story. I guess I didn't even really talk about this. I asked you earlier if you wanted to meet former President Obama. I actually got to meet him. It was just really cool. I was in the middle of microgravity. We were like in one of our serious deep writing sessions for NASA, and I get this call from the dean of the College of Engineering. So another networking thing that I did. She was like, do you maybe possibly want to introduce President Obama when he comes? And I was like, yes. And she said, okay, so we're going to put you on a list, but we got to vet you. You got to get permission and all this. So, so I just didn't even tell anybody about that. I just like kind of let it go. And it's like I just went back to work. And then I was getting ready for a class. It was like an early morning class at 7 a.m. I was getting ready for a class. I was sitting down and it was really dark. I remember it just being dark. And all of a sudden my phone starts ringing with a really peculiar, strange ringtone that I never heard before. And I was like, ah. I was like, what? Like, this isn't my ringtone. I don't even know why I'm answering because the number is unknown, but I pick it up and it's like, hello, this is the White House. And we would like to know if you would still be interested in introducing President Obama. So by that time, they were like, so you're gonna introduce him on Wednesday. And it was Monday. And so I had to basically figure out how to stay chill go to class, but then figure out how to write a speech with very little time in between class. And also I had to like do dress rehearsal with Secret Service beforehand, and it was getting really crazy and hectic. And also I had to keep it a secret. Couldn't tell anyone. They actually told me like, yeah, you can't tell anyone. I actually called my mom, like, Mom, I'm gonna tell you something, but you can't tell anyone. They're gonna show up at your house. You have to decide. And so, got my mom a ticket. She got to come in with me. And it was really flurry of events. And then I get there, and they're like, oh, you can't bring your mom in. And I'm like, no, Secret Service told me I could bring my mom in. I'm like, no, you can't bring your mom in. And so being a thinker, I pulled out the Secret Service card and I was like, this is the guy that said I could bring my mom in. Can he come out here? And like, oh, okay, you can let her in, you know. Yeah, I had to think on my feet there. And then I got in and they took me to a green room where there was like a ton of like really important people, like senators, there was governors, and there were like leaders and CEOs in this green room. And I had no idea what's going on. I'm just sitting there, and one of the senators comes up to me and says, oh, where's your mom? Oh, she's out there? Oh, I gotta help you. You need to like fix your hair and straighten your collar. And she was helping me like, you know, be presentable. And then we walk into this room and they line us all up. There's like 100 people and they line us all up, and I'm at the very end of the line. And we start like just waiting, and all of a sudden this limousine pulls up, and there comes the President of the United States. He just goes right past us, and they start the line, and they're actually having us shake hands with him and take a picture. I had no idea. I was just going with the flow at this point. I was just like, they told me to go here, they told me to go there. So I'm the second to last person. They have me shake hands with him, and he says, this is the person that's introducing me. He's like, well, really nice to meet you. And then he's like, okay, well, you're good then. And I thought that was it. I thought that was my meeting with the president. So I'm behind stage practicing my speech. I had written it out very specially so I wouldn't get lost. And I was like going over. The Secret Servicemen were like revving up the crowd. They were playing music and like, hey, this is fun. And then I'm just reading it, and I turn around, and all of a sudden the President of the United States is walking right up to me. And I'm like, And he's like, hello, Camille. And he's like, hello, Camille, really nice to meet you. I want to tell you that we're really proud of you, that you're in STEM and science. It's really good. He's fixing his cufflinks and looking down at me because he's tall. And he's like, yeah, we're just really proud of you. You know, and I'm just like, thank you. And I let him do most of the talking, and it was really cool. Then one of the Secret Servicemen comes up and says, are you ready to go? And I said, yep. And guess what I forgot to do? I forgot to say goodbye. I was like, yep. So I forgot to say goodbye. But then I went up and gave this speech. It was a fun speech to give in front of like what has to be the biggest audience. There was like thousands of people, and I made sure to thank everybody for coming out and talked a little bit about what I did, and then said, when I went to introduce him, I was like, so will you please help me introduce? And then I paused because I had this speech going, and I was getting prepared for it all this time. I was like, did I really hit the end of the speech? And so if you were to watch the video, you can say, may I please introduce the President of the United States of America? And so then he came out, and that was a very busy day that I did not expect, that I could not plan for. And I hope each and every one of you have a similar experience at one point. But yeah. Thank you.
So you have shared some wonderful stories and great words of advice with all the students today. So to wrap things up, could you just give some last words of encouragement and support for these students as they go on with their lives?
Yeah, so remember like 3 tips, 3 words that I live by is be ready so you don't have to get ready. So in the case of introducing the president, I did have to get a little ready, but I was ready to go. So that other one too, say yes to every new opportunity. I didn't say no, like, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. So say yes to every new opportunity. And then 3, don't do anything twice. Because you have so much out there, your students, you should take advantage of every opportunity you have. And then the last thing I want to say is, be confident and act like you belong, because you do. And I really wish you guys luck, and thank you for having me.